Good morning, SDA Academy. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm sure you guys are really looking forward to your Eid break, nice long weekend. But before that, obviously we got to get started on what we got to do for this week. So obviously we're going to have our quick recap as to what we did last week. We've got our 3 questions for today. These questions are: what is endurance? Why do we need endurance for our sport? And how can we improve our endurance? Then at the end, I'll write down what is required for you guys to do for us after your Eid break. So just a quick recap. Last week we looked at what is power. So you got to remember, power is a nice combination between strength and speed. Okay, so you got to have a certain amount of strength, and you got to move a certain speed, and then those two that work together create power. Okay, so again, if you're looking at the scientific term, it is the amount of force that you can produce in the quickest amount of time, right? As quickly as possible. Then we looked at why is power important for our sport. So because obviously it's a combination of speed and strength, we've got different components, right? So in most sports we need our strength, and in a lot of sports we need our speed. If we combine the two, we have power. Okay, and also it reduces the amount of injuries that could happen in power-based sports or contact sports. Okay, so the better you get at something, the less you're likely to get hurt. Then we're looking at how can we improve our power. So we got to look at our specific training, we got to make it more difficult, and we got to consistently program the correct part of that training, and then very importantly, we've got to recover. So this week we're going to look at endurance. Okay, so now endurance is the ability to do continuous exercise for a long period of time. Okay, now I've put there, it's called your fat oxidative energy system. So when we're working endurance, okay, most of the time you're looking at the energy system that burns fat. Okay, so we've got 3 energy systems in our body, and the one that we use for endurance on a sort of predominantly, okay, so the one that we use the most when we're doing endurance is called your fat oxidative energy system. Now we need to know, why do we need endurance for our sport? Okay, so if you're doing pure endurance-based sports, obviously like your triathlons, your marathons, if you're doing long-distance cycling, things like Tour de France, okay, those are endurance sports. So if we have endurance capabilities, that means we'll do really well in those sports. Okay, if we train for endurance, if we do long periods of exercise continuously, then we'll get better at endurance. Okay. Then we also got to look at there's different types of endurance. Okay, so we've got speed endurance. Okay, so even when we train our speed, we can train the endurance part of speed. So remember, 2 weeks ago we spoke about being able to sprint more than once in a short period of time. Okay, that was classified as our speed endurance. Very similar with our strength. You're doing strength work. Okay, you're able to execute strength, you have a little bit of a rest, but you execute the same amount of strength over and over and over again. Okay, that is strength endurance. It's the same with power endurance. Okay, we do power work, we have our adequate rest, and we're able to produce the same amount of power that we did in the first time over and over and over again. Okay, so any type of sport that you play, whether it has a speed endurance component, a strength endurance component, or even a power endurance component, okay, we need to better these parts of our endurance for our sport. Okay, just as a quick example, if we are playing football players run a long distance in the total game, right? They run about between 7 to 9 kilometers in a game. But during that game, they have a lot of sprints that they need to do to chase the ball. Okay, so that means we've got speed endurance in there as well. Okay, so each sport because they, like in football, they're running about 9 kilometers throughout the game. That is pure endurance. Okay, there's a lot of endurance work there. But also because they need to do sprints throughout that, they've got to do speed endurance work as well. Okay, so they've got different types of endurance and speed endurance during the sport. Now, how can we improve our endurance? Okay, so each week we look at the different things, and as you can see, it is very consistent with how we improve. Okay, the only way for us to improve our training is through specific training. Okay, you're working on those correct muscle fibers. Okay, with endurance, you're working on a muscle fiber called your type 1 muscle fiber. Okay, we're working on the correct energy system. So as I mentioned, your energy system for this is your fat oxidative energy system. We progressively overload, right? So we're making it more difficult as the time goes on. Okay, then we are consistently working. We're sticking to the correct training program. We're continuously working on your endurance components. Okay, and then lastly, we recover. We eat well, we sleep well, we do our stretching, our mobility, and we hydrate. So for next week, I want you guys to complete your practical session, which I'll send out. Okay. Then what I want you guys to do is I want you to state your sport. Okay. So what sport are you currently participating in? And whether you have endurance components within your sport. If yes, then I want you guys to list them. Okay. So again, if you are a rugby player, a football player, there are endurance components. Okay. And there are different endurance components within that sport. Okay. Really look forward to seeing what you guys come up with and the answers you guys give. Okay. I hope you guys have a great Eid, and we'll see you guys next week.